This dock was one of the most hated RuneScape updates of all time. It no longer exists. This used to be the center of Zeah. It no longer exists. This used to be the original Grand Exchange. It no longer exists. These updates were so despised that they ended up being removed from the game not long after being added. Thanks to an amazing tool called OSRS World, we can go back in time to different periods in old school RuneScape and find out what things have been added to the RuneScape map that were later removed. Some of these changes I had no idea even existed until making this video, so I have no doubt some will surprise you. We're starting off in Draynor Village, an iconic village that's been in the game since 2001 and was there on Old School's release back in 2013. For the most part, this village has stayed entirely the same, but on February 7th, 2019, this village would see its most controversial addition yet. A dock and a ship were added to it. On this dock, you could find Veos, whose ship would take you to Port Piscarilius in the Kingdom of Corrent. Now, Veos and his ship had already existed in the game, but they were just found in the southern part of Port Sarim. The update that moved Veos and his ship to Draynor Village also introduced the X Marks the Spot quest into the game, a free-to-play quest designed to act as an introduction to Clue Scrolls and Corrent. Now, the walk from Lumbridge, where you start the quest, to the southern dock of Port Sarim is quite a far one for a new player, so Jagex decided to just move Veos and his ship to Draynor Village and thought it was a nice spot to put it. Draynor Village is much closer to Lumbridge, and they thought that it didn't really interfere with the look of the village at all. Luckily for Jagex, the player base was totally fine with this. And by totally fine, I mean totally lost their minds. Nobody was happy that the iconic town of Draynor had been infiltrated by this ship that brings players to Corrent. Keep in mind that Zeah at the time was still a very controversial update. It was not as polished as it is today, and many players found it to be an unnecessary update, so to have it be a part of a village like Draynor was something nobody was happy with. It took less than a week for Jagex to apologize and move the dock to the northern part of Port Sarim. The X Marks the Spot quest actually infiltrated two of the most iconic places in Old School, Draynor Village and Lumbridge. Before the Sheared Ram pub existed, this spot in Lumbridge just used to be a house. Though nobody was really up in arms about this change, since it makes sense to have a pub in a city like Lumbridge, and it's a crucial spot to help new players get into the game. Now, while the dock was removed from Draynor, that doesn't mean that it's exactly the same as it was in 2013. This table in the northern house in Draynor was changed from this model to this model on August 21st, 2024, with no mention of it in the update post. Just south of that house, in the same update, this table was changed from this to this. Same thing with the two tables in this house south of that one, going from the old models to the new one. That same update also made all the windows in the village smaller. Want to know the worst part about this? All of these were unpolled changes. I am heading to Falador to riot as we speak. This area had a controversial change that only lasted a week before being reverted, and it's probably one that you had no idea changed either. We'll check it out after this. Today's video is sponsored by Rocket Money. Getting a random charge on your credit card or bank account has happened to all of us. Most of the time it's a subscription you forgot you purchased, or you signed up for a free trial and forgot to cancel it. That's where Rocket Money can help. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. They've helped save their members up to $740 a year when all their features are used. Over $500 million have been saved in canceled subscriptions alone. Most of my viewers are in their 20s and 30s, which is the age range where we need to start thinking about putting some money aside for our future, and Rocket Money can help you with that. The best thing is they cancel unwanted subscriptions for you. You can even cancel from the app. Rocket Money takes care of everything. No customer service calls or chats needed on your end. On top of that, they can negotiate to lower your bills for you, like your internet or phone bills. I highly recommend taking advantage of their budgeting features, which lets you analyze your spending habits to create a custom budget that works with your lifestyle. And guess what? You can get started for free. To save more and spend less, join the over 5 million members using Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/SoupRS or click the link in the description to get started for free. You can also unlock even more features with Premium. That's rocketmoney.com/SoupRS to get started for free. What makes OSRS World so great is, well, everything. It's kind of like the GPU plugin on RuneLite on steroids. You can control things like the render settings to show the entire map if you want. There's settings you might recognize from the GPU plugin like fog depth, brightness, anti-aliasing, etc. You can even keyframe the camera to get some really cool cinematic shots. But my favorite feature by far is here under the cache, because it lets you load up almost every released version of Old School RuneScape since 2013. That's how I was able to go back and see the changes that were made to Draynor Village. If you want to see what Varrock looked like the day OSRS was released, just scroll all the way down to OSRS version 1. Click it and it loads up. Remember how this place used to look without a Grand Exchange? You can fly around and see things up close that you were never able to before. But my favorite thing to do is see exactly what's changed about the map over the past 12 years. Changes that were announced and changes that were never told to anyone. This cache feature lets us see almost all of them. Some of the versions are unfortunately unfinished versions, so you'll have flattened areas like this where nothing loads in. That unfortunately just means that there's no up-to-date cached version of that specific date, but usually you just have to go a few weeks back or forward to find the complete version. If you want, you can even go all the way back to 2004 and load up that version of the game, back when it was RS2. In this video though, I'm just going to mainly focus on the changes that old school Runescape has seen since it released in 2013. I spent days comparing all the major cities and towns and found some pretty wild changes, some small, some large, but to me, any change to an iconic map like RuneScape's is fascinating, and I'm excited to share some of the things that I found. Check out this really interesting one that I found. Subscribe to help SupRS get to 400,000 subscribers. Wow. That's crazy. I can't believe it's in the game. I guess everybody has to do it. Okay, so in December of 2020, the Christmas event was added into the game. This event took place north of Falador next to Ice Mountain. One of the things that this Christmas event introduced was a sled race that could be found in a cave in Goblin Village. At one point during the quest, you also need to push a boulder down the cliff into Goblin Village. In order to help players get to this area quicker, this small path was opened up next to Doric's hut. It allowed players to cut across this hill that usually, annoyingly, can't be crossed. Well, when the event ended, this path was kept open. Some players immediately noticed and complained. Here are some of the tweets that I managed to find about this. Do you think maybe you could revert this nearly 20-year-old piece of landscape? Very strange how willing JMods are to change parts of this game that have stood for so long without notice. I get this is just one little thing, but it's happening again and again, and it's snowballing. HittyRS came in with the undo this shit. Now, on one hand, I can kind of see where they're coming from. I think everybody's experienced the frustration when you realize you have to run around to Ice Mountain from Goblin Village. It's just very annoying. I think this might be one of the cases of, well, I suffered, so you have to as well. What's interesting though is it seemed like the JMods were okay with keeping this in the game. Mods Husky and Elena both said that they don't really see much harm in keeping it. But it seems like the backlash may have been too much, or they just didn't want to stir up any more controversy because the path was closed up a week later. Personally, I really don't think this was that big of a deal. I don't see how this changes the meta for anything. It saves you a bit of time maybe if you mind alter teleport and run to Goblin Village, but that's about it. I don't know. What do you guys think? Alright, so the elephant in the room of controversial changes is day of release Zeah. Nowadays, Zeah for the most part is a good looking area with some beautiful scenery. Kerrang Castle in the city of Kingstown is there right now, but here's what it looked like on day of release, January 7th, 2016. You ready for this? Yeah, a bit of a downgrade is an understatement. A statue and some flowers was the center of the supposed powerhouse new continent of the Great Kerrang. I think it's no secret at this point that in January of 2016, Zeah released in a very unfinished state, especially graphically. As you can see here from this overhead shot, it kind of felt like 4 squares with different cities on them were kind of just slapped together. I mean, just look at how much better it looks these days compared to when it was released. One of my absolute favorite features back then was that the Tithe Farm took up literally 20% of the entire city of Hasidius. There was a shopping mall full of Tithe Farm patches. I can't get over how big this is. There were also 24 different places to plow soil, which was used as a way to gain Hasidius favor back when that existed. This also used to be in the southern part of Hasidius. I think everyone knows what this is trying to reference, and I'm not surprised it's been changed. 15% of the Shazen area being taken up by copy and pasted graves and flowers was also crazy. I get that it's the city with a history of war, but I mean, that's pretty egregious. Lovakanj and Arceus for the most part have stayed the same. The main things that have changed are the city layouts, some buildings have been removed, and some added to better fit the look of the Zeah redesign. Not everything on release was changed though. Port Piscarilius is the only Zeah city that has seen very few changes since it came out. A couple of props have moved and the room layouts have changed, but that's about it. Northern Arceus, that features the Blood and Soul runecrafting areas, also have stayed the same for the most part. What makes this area look way better now though, and way more complete, is the addition of the snowy areas up north that feature Wintertodt and some areas used during quests. The Hasidius and Shazen reworks are definitely the best ones. My personal favorite is Shazen. I love the color scheme of the city, and I think the trees they used are perfect for the area. Same with Hasidius. The Tithe Farm shopping mall is no longer there, and it feels way more like a farm city now. The center of Zeah is also just unrecognizable from what it used to be. It's gone through many different redesigns and updates to get where it is today, but just take a look at how many graphical updates it had over the years. In the first 10 months of being in the game, it must have gone through 5-6 different redesigns, and we only only finally got the castle on November 17th, 2016, over 10 months later. If there is any place on the map that I'd say is the most interesting area to see changes throughout the years, I would 100% say Zeah. It feels like every update, something about this continent changed, and that just goes to show how rough it was on release. Don't even get me started on how you had to regain favor for a house to use its content if you started gaining favor for another house. If I got 100% favor in the Assidious house, that unlocks the Tithe Farm for me, but if I went and got 100% favor in the Shazen house, my Assidious favor would go down and I could no longer use the Tithe Farm. The up and down favor system was in the game for 2 months until the Architectural Alliance mini-quest allowed you to gain 100% favor in every house at the same time. Karen favor was completely removed from the game on January 10th, 2024, ending what was, at least in my opinion, one of the worst things about the game. I know this video is mainly about the graphical updates, but I'm sorry, I had to rant about the favor system. Hopefully you guys understand. The amount of work they've put into this continent to make it look better is insane. A huge shout out to all the JMods involved in the redesign because it looks infinitely better now. For 2.5 months, this existed on old school RuneScape. The Trading Post. Released on the 10th of December 2014, the Trading Post was a way for players to advertise what items they were selling and for players to search for items to buy. Kind of like an auction house. Keep in mind that the Grand Exchange didn't exist at this time. The player base had been noticeably decreasing and many thought it was because, well, the trading system sucked. I mean, most of the people I knew who were playing at the time had to advertise their buy and sell offers on Zybez, a third-party website just to be able to find and sell items. The Trading Post was Jagex's way to try and make this process easier, but it didn't last long. In a historically close vote, the Grand Exchange passed in the polls at 76.3%, 1.3% over the 75% threshold, and was released into the game. The Trading Post, which could be found at most of the banks in the game, was removed forever and no longer exists. Something you may have noticed in this video so far are the lighting changes that happen on certain objects, especially on trees when changing from 2013 to 2025. Almost every single normal tree, as well as some other trees like yew trees, seem to have just gotten brighter. I was able to pinpoint the exact date that brought this change, March 20th, 2024, but I took a look at the update post and saw nothing about lighting changes, so I'm not really sure what happened here. I mean, I think it looks better. I personally prefer brighter textures, so it's fine, but I'm just curious why it changed. My guess is it had to do something with an engine update for the official Jagex client or mobile. I'm not sure. If any of you guys know, make sure to let me know below. A couple more things that people hated and were removed were the trees that were blocking the Tower of Life fairy ring. The trees here made you have to run around them every time you ran west after using the fairy ring. Players complained so much about this that they eventually were removed, meaning you can now just run straight west. Not really controversial as much as just a very nice quality of life update. Now, what was controversial was the removal of the duel arena. For some of you, this place might bring back nightmares, but for others, good memories. Whether you thought it was good or bad, you can't deny that this place was infamous. I do think they did a great job with the look of the new Amir's Arena. I've used it many times for B-roll and it looks fantastic, but a part of me really does miss that old school duel arena look, and I don't know about you guys, but I still call this place and the teleport on the dueling ring the duel arena teleport, not the Amir's Arena teleport. I've got a couple of smaller but very interesting, at least to me, changes that I wanted to show. Have you ever looked closely at the stained glass artwork on the Lumbridge Church? It's pretty cool. We've got the Saradomin symbols on the bottom 2 windows and the big center one. The 2 windows on the top show a knight about to swing his sword down. Oh, wait, what's that? The top of the windows are being cut off by the roof? And it was like that since 2006? That's right, for 18 years, the roof of the Lumbridge Church has been too far down and cut off the windows until one heroic JMod noticed this and moved the roof back up on August 21st, 2024. Does that date seem familiar? Well, it was also the date that those tables were changed and the windows got smaller in Draynor. It seems like August 21st was the day a lot of the small things changed around the game. Doors in Varrock got brighter, the castle walls got evened out, the Wildy Ditch got slightly lower, the wall between Edgeville and the monastery smoothed out. Pretty much anywhere you go on the August 21st update, something graphically has changed. Whether it's a smoothing out of a piece of landscape or the removal of shadows, I think it was an end of summer graphic cleanup of sorts. You may know this pen as a cow pen these days, but who remembers what this was before February 19th, 2015? Well, if you guessed a cabbage patch, you'd be correct. The 19th of February 2015 saw the release of permanent free-to-play, so this cabbage Cabbage Patch was sacrificed to give the free-to-play noobs more cows to kill. Before March 5th, 2015, there was no furnace in Edgeville. In fact, nothing used to be here. It only came into the game with the release of Achievement Diaries. Also, can we just take a look at this string of updates in 2015? Zulrah in January, Dragon Defenders, Permanent Free-to-Play, and the Grand Exchange in February, Achievement Diaries, and Membership Bonds in March. That's actually kind of insane. A large raised area of water existed north of Miscellanea for over 6.5 years until it was removed on September 26, 2019, when the Fremenic Exiles quest came into the game. Okay, so I know I wouldn't talk about RuneScape 2 this video, but there's a couple of things I wanted to show. First of all, I really love the lava that was used in the wilderness back then. I feel like it made the area look so much cooler, and I don't know why, but for some reason the lava that was there then looks better than the one there is now. Also, check out the boneyard. This is a proper boneyard. Look how many bones there are. Nowadays, the boneyard we have feels like a fraction of what it used to be, and it's mainly because all the skeletons that exist there now blend into the ground and are barely visible. For some reason, in Port Sarim, you can find a piece of cheese on top of this bush. The only reason I could find to why this exists is because Rat Catchers was about to come into the game, and this bush is over top the hole that leads down into the Port Sarim Rat Catchers area. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. OSRS World is incredible. I feel like as a community, we are so spoiled to have so many amazing community-run tools and projects like OSRS World and RuneLite and the OSRS Wiki and RuneMonk. It's amazing. I'm going to continue to go through OSRS World and find more things that have changed. If you're interested in checking out the website for yourself, I'll link to it in the description. Spend a bit of time going through it yourself. I'm sure you'll find something interesting or just have a blast going through the past iterations of the game. Please post any changes that I may have missed or ones that you found in the comment section below. I'd love to see what you guys discover on the site. I also created a Discord channel in my server for OSRS.World finds, so if you guys find anything interesting or want to show off a change, please post them in there. If enough interesting finds happen, then I'd love to make a part 2 of this video because I'm sure there's enough content for another. If you like this kind of video, then please leave a like. It helps out a bunch, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe as well. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.